What is up, traders, and welcome back to Uplift Markets. Today we'll be talking about a setup that I'm seeing in Bitcoin and that we might not see again for a couple years. Between IBIT hitting record inflows, MicroStrategy planning even more Bitcoin purchases, and institutions quietly positioning before Trump's proposed tariffs shake up the global markets, everything is lining up for the massive move. Now, here's a bigger picture. We've had Trump imposing tariffs on Chinese goods, right? This has induced higher volatility in the markets, and investors are now moving out of physical hardware companies and into pure digital high-margin assets. Bitcoin, as we know, is an ultimate digital asset. There's no physical supply chain, no tariff exposure, and is completely decentralized. Now, our AI-based institutional flow analysis showed that over 56% of recent accumulation is happening in sectors like packaged software and digital assets, not hardware. This is not random, and big money is strategically moving, and Bitcoin is at the center of that shift. Now, why MSTR and IBIT? Well, if you look at MSTR, let's think of it as a high beta Bitcoin stock. Their Bitcoin holdings keep growing, and they now own over 214,000 Bitcoins. Michael Saylor's strategy is simple: buy Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, and repeat. And also the recent technicals are showing higher lows forming, with MSTR now breaking above key resistance levels. Now, moving on to IBIT, we have institutional grade exposure to Bitcoin. IBIT continues to set new daily inflow records while other ETFs have slowed down. And now also, more institutions are opting for ETFs for compliance reasons rather than buying Bitcoin outright, and IBIT is winning that race. Now, both MSTR and IBIT give you a powerful leverage to Bitcoin's next move in slightly different ways, but both are seeing serious big money interest. Now, let's zoom into the charts of MSTR and IBIT. First off, beginning with MSTR. As we can see, we are above key areas of resistance. Previously, we were below the 50, but now we are above it. We recuperated it. Since we are above the 50 MA, it shows that buyers are now in control of the stock, right? Something interesting to note is that we are now breaking above this area of resistance. It's occurring right here at 238. This was the swing high anchored VWAP, and this measures, this red line, the average price of entry from the sellers that came in at this high, right? Everything was good, right? We were nice uptrend, and then we had this big selling candle, right? Well, this candle is important to measure, so that's why we placed an anchored VWAP at that position to see is now the time for the reversal. So, going to it, we recently broke above it, and we see that we have held above it and are closing above this prior higher high, showing that there's momentum to the upside. And also something important to note is that even on this downward move, right, and the market seeing an intense downside from its all-time highs, we only saw MicroStrategy in a way kind of consolidating around this area. We didn't see rapid declines, right, showing that there was more buyer interest. And something important to note here is that we plotted an anchored VWAP from this intense candle right here, and we can see that we have held above it, right? We haven't at all even touched it. If we zoom in, right, it shows the buyer exuberance, right, that came into this name and the breakout, right? So I am clearly looking long on MSTR alongside IBIT, and we clearly saw this because we had a breakout candle above. We had two closing candles above that, showing that the buyers came in and sellers just couldn't bring the price back down. And this candle closed above the high, making a new higher high. And this was the most recent higher low. So we're going to be looking long, and we have placed a long order at around 376 to get filled, right, with options using that strike price. And the stop that I'm going to be using is going to be the $303 level, which is the most recent and relevant higher low, and for more risk, possibly the 275. Like I repeat, this is for a swing trade. Now, the price targets for this, we can just use Fibonacci retracements, right? We measure from this high towards this bounce where we're starting to see the pullback now and the upward move, and it's going to be towards here. We can challenge the highs of 539, right? And towards here, the levels of 420, which would be, the first profit target, and this could be profit target 2, right? And once we go above that, I would probably liquidate the majority of the position and let the rest run in order to take advantage of the trend. As always, the trend is our friend, and we always want to, take profits, raise our stop losses, and let the rest run with house money, right? So now that I'm looking bullish on MSTR, let's also look at another instrument that could be played on this Bitcoin move, and that is IBIT. As we can see, the exact same pattern is occurring on IBIT, just like MSTR. We are above the 50 EMA, showing buyer exuberance and control, right? We are above the swing high from where the sellers came in, and now the average short is losing money, right? It was at 50 and 55 cents. Now we also measured the buyer's momentum here at this candle because we found, right, we were declining, but we found the buyers there, which these were the buyers that initiated the reversal, right? These buyers, you can see the intense volume here, right here lower. We can measure the momentum, and we haven't even touched that again. So it shows the buyer exuberance, right? And as well, this candle here is extremely profound, right? It aligns with the overall volume that we saw at this area here. Now you may be wondering, well, why did we find support at this area? Well, let's zoom out. If we can see, this was the anchored VWAP from the IPO, or the anchored VWAP from the initial public offering, which is the average price of entry of those market participants that bought the name at that date, and it was at 40, I believe 43. And what this means is that those buyers were still present, and they defended the level and did not show any empathy towards those sellers, right? So now the reason as to why I'm looking long on this name is that because we had a breakout, right? A breakout candle. We had 2 closing candles hold above, right? And we had this extreme candle right here close above. And today we actually had a candle close above the swing high anchored VWAP right here, this red one. And see that lower wick? Show that the buyers picked up the price pretty aggressively. So I'm looking long on IBIT, and like I said, price targets on IBIT, I believe that we can firmly challenge the all-time highs of around $60 on this name. And if we plot Fibonacci retracements to get our maximum level, I firmly believe that IBIT can achieve the levels of $71.75. That would be price target 2. And at that point, we would have covered more than half of our position. But I believe that this name could run towards our all-time highs of around $60. And this all depends on the macro news and the overall move in Bitcoin and the actual instrument, right? So other than that, this is looking extremely bullish, and this is a good swing trade. And this can also be day traded, right? As long as the longer trend is in alignment, then the shorter term trend should also be in alignment, and we can go long the name. Here's exactly what I'm doing. I'm building the position slowly in MSTR and IBIT on the dips. We're adding aggressively as long as we are above the swing high anchored VWAP, and as always, managing our risk is very important by keeping our stops clean, right? Under important structural supports that go with the trend, the most recent and relevant higher lows. Now, the structure, the flows, and the fundamentals are lining up. So here's where my head's at. Bitcoin is stabilizing, institutions are buying, and the digital asset narrative is getting stronger. MSTR and IBIT are quietly getting loaded by smart money, and this could be the setup that you'll wish you paid attention to. Now, if you got value from today's breakdown, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and drop your Bitcoin price target in the comments. I'd love to hear your outlook, and as always, don't forget to subscribe to the Uplift Markets newsletter, which drops every week with setups like this. Link is in the description. As always, stay sharp, stay uplifted, and don't let the market whip you out.